YouTube. This is RC Buggy Bash and I'm Jason. So while I'm waiting for a set of bearings to arrive for my Tamiya St. Dragon build, I thought I'd go over one of my current cars. I'm going to do a series of kind of these overview videos based on the cars I already have. This is one of my favourites. It's one of my favourite chassis actually of all time. I love the DT-02. I think it's possibly the best car Tamiya have ever made. It's very reliable. It's tunable. It's adjustable. It's a great platform, and it's a really good beginner, intermediate, and even advanced racer. And kind of that's what this one is. This is what I would consider a race spec DT-02. I mean, it's not quite a TRF, but it's a higher spec than the MS versions of this chassis that Tamiya released. This is the chassis. This is the car that I've raced a couple of times in anger, and it did reasonably well. I mean, it wouldn't beat like a Team Associate B6 or what are they now, B7s? You can get B7s now. Probably wouldn't even beat a B5. In fact, it didn't, but it was still a huge amount of fun. And you can still work in it, tune it. You can use this car like a real race car. It has all the same tunabilities and adjustabilities. This is also the one that is the inspiration for my logo. So I did a little caricature version of this buggy to use as my part of my logo. So I've had this car now for, gosh, it must be getting on 10 years. It's gone through a lot of iteration, a lot of revision. It's not like that classic story where a guy has an axe and changes the head because it's blunt, put it onto the shaft and then the shaft breaks, so he changes the shaft. Is that the same axe? No. This is still basically the same car that I bought about 12 years ago. It has the same main chassis. It does have a slightly new, it has a new gearbox at the back. When I first started with this one, I over drilled it because I kind of over drilled it. You can add holes in the back to be able to allow a bit more cooling. And I just went a little bit overboard and I didn't like it. So I got a new diff case, and at the same time got the ball differential as well for this to be able to just give it a bit more, again, adjustability through the drivetrain. It has a slipper clutch as well. So this one is being powered by a Tamiya torque tune. Nothing really fancy, but that was the spec that this was raced in. I drove it a couple of times in the DTO challenges back in the day, and had a huge amount of fun with it. So I'll take off the body shell so we can have a quick look inside, and it'll make it easier to do a tour of the chassis. No electronics in it at the moment. I'm probably going to change that. I'm hoping that this summer I'm going to get a chance to actually race this again at a local club, which I went to last night, and there will be footage coming soon of a little bit of that. That's GT12 racing they do there on carpet, but they're about to do a buggy track outside. But yeah, this car has what I consider the optimum upgrades for it. It has the classic brace across the front shock tower. You can change this for an alloy or a carbon one, but I still wanted to have a little bit of flex, which this allows me to have rather than having a very solid front end, because then you can sometimes break the bulkhead, and I've never done that because this is still the original main chassis. I do have the aluminum top brace, and I have the carbon fibre. Try and get this to the camera. I have the carbon fibre and aluminum rear shock towers. That just gives it a slightly wider stance at the back to be able to give more adjustability on the rear suspension. Same as with the front suspension. This has got full adjustable turnbuckles on the steering, and the actual upper links, adjustable upper links on the back as well. I could have gone for CVD drives, but I kept the plastic ones because I've never had a problem with them. I think the chunkiness of them allows for a bit more durability within the car, so I've kept them the same. The shocks these are my go-to shocks. I love these things. They're on several of my cars. They are G-made, big bore, full aluminium bodied diaphragm shocks, and they are wonderful. They are silky, silky, silky smooth. And the shafts in them are 2 to 2.5 mil, so they are chunkier than what you would get in a Tamiya CVA shock, and they're more, I wouldn't say they're more adjustable than other brands, but because they are a big bore, I like the feel of them. I like how they work, and if they fit on my cars, I put them on my cars. I went for a slightly shorter front piston on this one to give it a lower profile. I was driving on Astro turf almost continuously with this car, so I didn't need a huge amount of ground clearance. It just adds a nice little bit of droop to it once you've got that going. Obviously there's no battery electronics in the car, so it's quite light as is. So when the electrics go in, it does have a nice leveling droop to it. And it just drives beautifully, this does. You can also flip the front A-arms around to give you a longer wheelbase, and I have driven it that way as well. But again, I enjoy the shorter wheelbase. It makes it more aggressive into corners, but slightly harder to take out of corners. So the shorter the wheelbase, you get nippy as you go in, but it then tends to kind of pull the car around because it's a short wheelbase. You don't have as much adjustability with things like that. It's why they released the DT-03, which is a narrow chassis, slightly longer wheelbase, and that handles in a different manner to this, but I still prefer the DT-02. I did at one point also have carbon fibre battery mount. I do still have that on one of the DT-02s, but I just went back to the standard fitting. I didn't need the extra weight changing. The DT-02 Challenge class is not that rigorous with the rules. With the mod class like what this was, you could pretty much run anything you want. You could run brushless, etc. They did have two different categories where it was still brushed and brushless, but everything else you could do anything you wanted to the car. The stock class, which was the one that was actually more enjoyable, was, as it says, it's basically you have a DT-02, you can change the tyres, and you can change the shocks, and you can have the chassis, the tower brace. Everything else has to be as is. It has to be exactly the same as what you bought the car. So this was originally I think this was a Holiday Buggy, this particular chassis. I did also get the Gator as well. No, it was the Sand Viper that I also got. That's what this body shell is. The body shell is a Sand Viper. So yeah, this is just the the original Holiday Buggy chassis, which I then added the upgrades to. As I said, I'm hoping to get this out at about this year. They're introducing a buggy track at my club, or the local club, and I know that a lot of people are just going to jump straight in, spend £400 on a Team Associate B7, or the new Yokomo, or a TLR of some description, something like that, maybe even an X-Ray. Then you're speaking £1,000 to be able to get into a hobby. But when you can buy a Holiday Buggy for 95, brand new, or on eBay you can get them for a bit less, working chassis, it's one of the best intro kind of buggies. So I'm going to try and keep this as entry level as I can. I'm going to refurb one of my other, or maybe two of my other DT-02s, and have them available for other people to race, and I'll hopefully get footage of it all. But yeah, that is my race, in inverted commas, SPEC DT-02. They are incredibly good fun to drive, great to work on, really simple, very tunable, upgradable, and a great way to get into buggy racing. And as long as you don't worry about competing with cars that are 10 times as much money wise as this is, and have your expectations measured against that, you're going to have a lot of fun. And that's what these are. They're all about fun, just like the hobby should be. Anyway, that's my DT-02 Tamiya review of the car that I have. Expect more of these soon, hopefully. If you have any questions or any comments, please do add them down below. And I will catch you in the next video. Stay safe.